On today's show, we're going to be talking about some more of the books that we've been reading. Okay, so we like to do this little segment called What We've Been Reading.
Yeah, we do.
Where we talk about some of the books we've been reading. Because we read a lot of books and they don't necessarily fit into the show in any shape or form. And this is the segment just to let each other know, as well as you, just what's been going on in our comic book lives.
I also find that this segment has kind of taken over our regular reviews at the moment. Because we're not reading any singles, except for your X-Men and Batmans. I ain't reading nothing. I'm reading mostly trades now, catching up on old, reading some new. So that's why we do this bit.
Also, it's mainly because we can't film those reviews regularly because we're filming once every 2 weeks now instead of every 1 week, and we're scheduling and not having a set. Listen, you don't need to hear our excuses. It doesn't matter. What's the first book you've been reading?
So the first book that I have read this week, I talked about briefly when we were filming in Gosh Comics, and that's Asterios polyp by David Mazzucchelli. To my knowledge, David Mazzucchelli has been writing, or was writing at some point, Wonder Woman? Oh no, that's Brian Azzarello. David Mazzucchelli has written superhero comics before. This is his, I'm almost positive. So much research went into this. This is his first graphic novel that he completely did, and it follows the journey of this man who, on his 50th birthday, his house burns down. He says, screw it, gets on a bus, goes to the nearest redneck town, and just starts his life all over again. Between that and the story that's unfolding there, we get flashbacks of his previous life, where he was an architectural lecturer. That's the basic premise. This is my indie, by the way, for the week. This fantastic book looks beautiful, very stylish. We constantly have these very plain color schemes that rock between the kind of yellow and purple color spectrums, which is great. Gives the book a really dynamic edge. Every page just kind of flows into the next one. There's no lines, there's no borders. It is like reading architecture. It's like seeing the designs of a building, the way it flows, and the lines, and just the way this all works on the book. It does sometimes feel a little bit too pretentious for its own good. But I think for the most part it is pretty grounded. It does have a message to say about life and how you should live it. Or not how you should live life. Like, it's not saying this is the way to do it. It's just trying to say, leave your options open, explore, don't be afraid to try new things, so on and so forth. And it deals a lot with relationships as well, which is very interesting. It's a very enjoyable read. I personally recommend picking it up if that's your kind of vibe. If you like the books that Dan reads most of the time, you'll love this book. Take it as a compliment.
Well, funny enough, I don't have an indie book this week. First
what
week,
has happened to this show?
I know. Look at that. You're reading the indie. Okay. No, I don't have an indie book this week. The reason being that I bought 2 books that are sort of very similar in tone from Amazon. I wanted to read them together, and they were Nova and Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's new cosmic scene. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Nova.
Giving away your second book now.
I have. But the first book I'm going to talk about is Nova, and I'm going to talk about that first because that is the one I thought I was going to enjoy the most, and just the one I was most excited to read in general. It's Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness. I read the first issue, loved it, and then was just like, right, I'm getting the trade. Got the trade. I think I got 2 issues in as well, yeah. And I enjoyed it. It was fun, and it was I liked the characters. You know what? I liked the art less as I went along.
Okay.
I really loved the art at first. It reminded me of something like Chris Burnham in Batman Incorporated. Yeah. That kind of sort of mismatched, proportionally mismatched. I don't know, and just I felt like the kid, the Nova kid, like he looked a lot like Damien. And I think Damien had just died at the time. So maybe I was looking for an emotional replacement.
That's dark. That's dark.
And
you're being my little Damien Nova.
yeah, and but you know what though? I didn't love it. Like I thought I was gonna love it. I didn't love it. Yeah. It was sort of a standard nuts and bolts story. Like it leaves the door open for bigger and better things. But I just sort of thought it was okay. I liked the way it looked. Some of the compositions are really, really nice. Some of the kind of one-page spreads that it sets up are really, really nice. Do you know what else I found it a bit unbelievable? And I know it's a Nova book, but even so, like I found like his courage, the amount of courage that he had at points, like just it was unrealistic.
Is unrealistically high.
It was
Tone
like
yourself down.
This is a kid. Like, do you know one of the saving graces of the original Transformers movie?
Go on, you tell me what one of the saving graces of that film
was that like Shia LaBeouf's character, not at any point did he become some kind of heroic character. Like he's always like this dumb kid that doesn't know what he's doing, and he's always scared, and he's always panicking, and he's just kind of lost in this massive thing. And that Nova doesn't feel like that. It's like he's immediately this awesome hero, and I could have done with more growth for that character, certainly. But it's still kind of fun, and it looks great, so, yeah.
Okay, then. That's such a shame to hear. So I did want to pick it up, but they're not planning on releasing a UK variant. So it's £18. I can't really afford that for a book that's supposedly subpar.
It could be it's laid good groundwork.
Yeah. So my book was I don't want to say mini series, but it was a series that spanned 13 issues. I didn't get a chance to read it as it was coming out, although I wish I had at the time. And that book is Garth Ennis's Fury, My War Gone By. It's from the Max imprint of Marvel Comics, and it starts off set in 1954, and it goes all the way up until the year 2000. And it's based on his kind of career after World War II. Fury was obviously he's Colonel Nick Fury. He's a massive influence during World War II, and he's a soldier. That's where he likes to be. So when they start sending him on all of these missions in Indochina to just do kind of recon and stuff, you kind of see the frustration in this character wanting to get back on the front line, which kind of leads him into Vietnam, which leads him into Nicaragua and Cuba, and all of these different kind of war scenarios. This book is fantastic. It's amazing, and it's up there for my top 5. I cannot for the life of me remember who the artist is. Oh, what's his name? I've completely forgotten. His name is here. I feel really bad about that. But the art is fantastic. I love the artwork in this book. It's very sketchy, but very cartoony, which it needs to be. There is some gruesome imagery in this book that if it wasn't as cartoony as it is, like if Esad Ribic was drawing this book would never have gotten past the publishers. There's one scene in particular that's disgusting, but as a story that goes for 13 issues and through almost 50 years of this character's life and the characters around him's life, it's both beautiful, very sad. Like what happens to some of these characters is very sad, but very touching as well, and you really see character development in this book. Also, seeing certain cameos in this book.
I was going to say, is there any Avengers in it?
There's no Avengers in it. There's a certain anti-hero that has a very similar philosophy to Nick Fury in the war times, and the way he gets introduced is like the moment of, what's his name? Cassidy? No. It's just like, yes, turn the page, there he is. It's fantastic. Go and pick up Fury, War Gone By. It's very hard to get in the shops at the moment because they keep selling out, but if you can get a hold of it, please do.
Okay, so as I alluded to before, the last book I'm going to talk about is Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think you weren't going to buy because they did this weird thing where it was
1 to 3, and then the 0.1,
Yeah.
and a couple of backups.
Yeah, I fucking loved it.
Okay.
Oh, loved it. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. I know it, but you know what? It felt like a lot of book. It felt like just as much book as Nova, and I read them back to back. And the fill-in backstory issues are great, and they're basically the recruitment process of the Guardians with Star-Lord going around and gathering them all up. Mate, this book feels like Firefly to me. Like it just feels, it just feels like this crew. They're on a spaceship. Tony Stark's one of them, and the banter between them is outstanding. Yeah, Stark's in there, Star-Lord, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and these are all characters. Oh, Gamora. These are all characters that I know very, very little about. I've seen them in Drax. I've seen them in certain places, like for example, Gamora. I've seen in some of the Infinity books and things like that, and obviously Stark. But for the most part, this is brand new story to me. And we reviewed the 0.1, and yeah, alright, it's included in this as part of the, so it's essentially 1 to 4 of Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's just a numbering thing, that's nothing to do with the book itself. So, but it is brilliant, like, it's a great origin story, and it sets the tone really, really well, and I loved it. I cannot wait to, and by the way, Star-Lord, Bamf.
Well, there you have it, Star-Lord, the badass motherfucker, for those who don't know what Bamf is.
And Tony Stark is on the same team, and Star-Lord out-Bamfs him.
Hello. Right, well, I'm going to have to pick that up now. You have sold it to me, sir, and I hope we've sold some of these books to you. And please tell us what you've been reading as well, because, we love to hear what you guys have been reading, and we read them as well. Like, if it piques our interest, we will delve into that and give it a read. So please tell us in the comments or over on Twitter.
Yes, indeed, and thank you for being patient. At Comic Book Show On, and thank you for being patient with us, guys, as we sort of wander like vagrants from place to place, looking for somewhere to film. But we hope you're still enjoying these episodes, and we will see you next week for some more.
From MCM Expo, yay!
Do you know one of the saving graces of the original Transformers movie?